Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Freedom Outdoors. Today I wanted to show you guys how I set up my trout fishing pole, what I use, and why I use it. So let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was I use the Berkley Trilene 8-pound test line. So the reason why I use the 8-pound test line is because you just never know what you're going to catch in a lake or wherever you're at. Because I can even tell you how many times I fish at Hagg Lake most of the time, but I couldn't even tell you how many times that I've caught, just regular 10, 12 inch fish. I've caught an 18 inch fish, 19, 22. And my biggest one I've ever caught from that lake was 25.5 inches, and it weighed just under 10 pounds. That's the reason why I use 8-pound test lines, because you just never know what you're going to catch, and it's still pretty lightweight. It's very easily, castable and everything. So I just like having a little extra just in case I catch something monstrous, because I was terrified when I caught that 10-pound fish. Like, it was monster. And I thought my line was going to break for sure, just by the sheer size of this thing. But yeah, that's the reason why I use 8-pound test line, and I use Trilene. So the next thing that I like to use these 3/4 ounce egg weights. Sometimes I'll use 1/2 ounce, but if I want to cast a little further, then I'll use the 3/4 ounce weights. I also use these crane swivels, size 3. For hooks, I like to use these. They're size 4. And as you can see, they are kind of, round and wide at the same time. I just use single hooks. I don't use tri hooks or anything like that. But these set very well because the distance between the hook and the stem of the hook is pretty wide, so it actually sets pretty well. Now, as far as baits go, pretty much anything you use, whether it's dough bait or power eggs like these, garlic scented seems to be the most popular one to use out at any lake. This is my #1 bait to use when I go out trout fishing. Garlic scented lemon lime. These ones seem to work the best for me. We also got garlic scented orange. I think it's fluorescent orange. And these ones aren't garlic scented, but I wanted to try these out. I haven't tried these out yet, but these are salmon egg red. Thought those would be kind of interesting to try out, so I'll be doing that. Also, garlic scented yellow, garlic scented chartreuse. Those are the top. But for me, this lemon lime one has been like #1. I pretty much always caught a fish on this lemon lime. Now, as far as dough baits go, straight up garlic or chartreuse, those are the two best ones that I know of that work really well. When I caught that monster 25.5 inch fish, that was on garlic dough bait. That's what I caught that one on. Every fish I've caught since then have been on these rubber power eggs, because they're floating. So I use 3 of them. I break 3 off of one of these links, and then I hook the center one. And I just make sure that they float in the water off, so that way when you use a 2-foot lead from your weight, the bait will be floating 2 feet above the bottom where the weight is sitting. So that's what you want, so they can swim by and it's above any, grass or anything that's in the water. All right, it is time to get my fishing setup going, and I want to show you guys how I set up my fishing rod for trout fishing. One of the things that I do is I use these little bobber stops, these little pre-knotted little strings here, because I like to lock my egg weight in place just above the swivel. Now, some people like to let it, slide up and down you know, have it movable. But the reason why I don't do that is because if you look at the hole, you know, these weights are not perfect. And to me, that will just fray up the line a lot faster with the line going, the weight going up and down the line. It's going to fray it faster and make it weak. So that's why I don't let it glide up and down the line, or free float, or however you want to call it. So I'm starting out with one of these little bobber stop pre-knotted twine, or whatever it is, string. So you put your line through the tube and then you push off the pre-knotted thing so it stays on your line, and then you just throw away the tube. The next thing I put on is one of these little beads. So I put that on so it's on both sides of the egg weight. First is the twine, the pre-knotted twine, and then a bead. Then I place the egg weight. And then I'm going to put another bead before I put on the swivel. Now the knots that I like to use are just your basic like clinch knots, where you loop it through and then wind it around the line and then loop it through again and then pull tight. And then I use my little nippers. Cut that off. And so now you can see that there's the swivel, and then there's a bead, and then there's a weight, and then this knot. So these, when you just pull tight on both ends. And then clip them. Depending on how tight you get them, it still can slide up and down your line a little bit, but it usually doesn't. So then from here, what I do is I will push this tightened twine down to the weight. So it looks just like this. So you swivel, a bead, your weight, another bead, and then the little rope that kind of keeps everything in place right there. Next thing I do is I cut off from the same line, I cut off another about 2 foot of line. You can do anywhere from 1 foot to 2 foot to even 3 foot if you wanted to. I like doing like a solid 2 foot lead on these, just because you never know what's you know, at the bottom of the lake, whether it's, you know, little plants or whatever. That's why I've always just done a 2 foot lead. Keep it off the ground underwater. Make another knot. All right, now it's time to put one of the hooks on. I don't know, I really like using single hooks over tri-hooks. I'm not really sure why. I understand with tri-hooks you definitely have a better chance of hooking a fish, but I just think that, you know, with a single hook you can hook a fish just fine. All done. So now, got a nice 2 foot lead from the swivel all the way down to a single hook. And that's how I set up my trout fishing rod. So now that my rod is set up, I was going to show you guys how I put on the rubber power eggs. So these come in strands, and I will literally just break off 3 of them. So you got 3 of them here. And then, wow, those really stink like garlic. And then I hook the center one, so it just looks just like that. And then I kind of dunk it in the water just to make sure it floats. And then you are ready to cast out. And that is it. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, smash that thumbs up button, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm going fishing. See you later.